Hey, fourth graders, this is Miss Strickland, and we are going to continue reading The Princess and the Pea today, as well as Love That Dog. But today we're going to be focusing on summarizing and theme. Yesterday, you read The Princess and the Pea, and you got to focus on the character, the setting, and the plot. Today, we're going to reread The Princess and the Pea, and we're going to focus on summarizing this text, this prose text, and we're going to be looking at the theme. We will know that we are successful when we are able to summarize a text using the main events, and that will be following our somebody, wanted, but, so, then. We will also know that we are successful when we are able to recognize the theme or the central message of a story. And can we also justify that theme with text evidence? If you recall, we've had two anchor charts that we have been using throughout this whole unit. Here's our somebody, wanted, but, so, then anchor chart that we will be using today, and then also theme. And theme, you can see the message, it's the moral or the lesson. And remember too that sometimes it's stated in a story and sometimes it's implied where you're going to have to figure it out. And in today's The Princess and the Pea, it's going to be more implied, and there might be more than one theme as well. So as we go through it today and start to summarize it, I want you to be thinking about all those clues, and we're going to use those as our text evidence to determine the theme. Yesterday, you read Love That Dog, and on pages 50 to 52 that you read, Jack thanks his teacher for typing up his poems and asked questions about Walter Dean Myers. So that's where we left off yesterday. And today we'll be ready for journal entry on April the 9th. Let's see what Jack is up to. April the 9th journal entry. No. I can't do it. You should do it. You are a teacher. So Jack's telling his teacher no about something and that she should do whatever she suggested instead of him doing it. I think we can all relate to that sometimes. Let's look at page 54 at April 12th entry. I don't agree that Mr. Walter Dean Myers might like to hear from a boy who likes his poems. I think Mr. Walter Dean Myers would like to hear from a teacher who uses big words and knows how to spell and to type. Okay. April 17th, journal entry. Dear Mr. Walter Dean Myers, you probably don't want to hear from me because I am only a boy and not a teacher, and I don't use big words. And you probably won't read this, or even if you do read it, you probably are way too busy to answer it, let alone do the thing I am going to ask you. And I want you to know that's okay, because our teacher says writers are very, 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 very busy trying to write their words. And the phone is ringing, and the fax is going, and the bills need paying. And sometimes they get sick. I hope you are not sick, Mr. Walter Dean Myers, or their family gets sick, or their electricity goes off, or the car needs fixing, or they have to go to the grocery store, or do the laundry, or clean up messes. I don't know how you find the time to write your words if you have to do all that stuff. And maybe you should get a helper. So what I am asking you is this. If you ever get time to leave your house, and if you ever feel like visiting a school, where there might be some kids who like your poems? Would you ever maybe think about maybe coming maybe to our school, which is a clean place with mostly nice people in it? And I think our teacher, Miss Stretchberry, would maybe even make brownies for you because she sometimes makes them for us. I hope I haven't too much stopped you from doing your writing of words and fixing your car and getting groceries and all that stuff just to read this letter, which probably is taking you maybe 15 minutes. And in that time, you could have maybe written a whole new poem, or at least the start of one. And so I am sorry for taking up your time. And I understand if you can't come to our clean school and read some of your poems to us and let us see your face, which I bet is a friendly face. My name is Jack. Bye, Mr. Walter Dean Myers. All right. So we can see here that Jack tells his teacher no about something and that she should do it, whatever it was. So clearly I'm seeing that it was to write a letter to this Mr. Walter Dean Myers. And then on page 54, Jack thinks Mr. Walter Dean Myers wouldn't want to hear from a boy, that he would much rather hear from a teacher. That's right, from a teacher, because he doesn't know any big words or anything like that. And then he also says he writes a letter to Walter Dean Myers about, let's see, ready? I believe, yeah, we did read that part. He writes a letter to Walter Dean Myers about his poetry, and then he invites him to his school. So there we go. So I think if we can kind of summarize all this, we could say that Jack is our somebody, and what does he want? He wants what? Mr. Walter Dean Myers to come visit his school. Yeah, so he writes him a letter. So now I'm wondering, it's kind of left me wondering if Mr. Walter Dean Myers is going to come and visit him. And I can tell that he's feeling probably maybe not confident about him coming because he's just a kid. That's what he says. I'm just a kid. I'm sure you'd rather hear from a grown-up, from a teacher, because I don't have those big words. So I don't think he feels confident that he will come. So, but now I'm left to wonder if he is. Let's look at The Princess and the Pea that you read with Miss Walgie yesterday. This is what you did yesterday, and I see all the excellent annotating that you guys did a very good job. As I look, I see that you have it marked from the beginning, the middle, and the end. That looks really good. That's going to be so much more helpful to me as I go back and summarize now, because now we want to focus on summarizing. I see that we've highlighted things. I'm not sure she's a real princess. Her walk is not very princess-like. Just look at her hair. It isn't fixed like she's royalty. Okay. Yep. So that makes me think that that this prince is obviously looking for a princess who is real, right? That's who he is looking for. So I love that you have highlighted. I've loved that there has been words that have been circled that I know you've talked about, like wretched and sopping and drenched. These are all really good describing words, and it helps with the visualization, helps with that imagery that we've been talking about. Now, this text is definitely prose. It's not poetry. It's not written in stanzas, but I can tell that it's written in paragraphs, and that we even have some dialogue going on. So I'm talking back and forth. So I'm going to go on and use my somebody wanted but so then. So I've got my nice little piece of paper here that has it on there, and I'm just going to go through and I'm just going to answer these questions, which is what you need to do when you are being asked to summarize something or just give the gist. So somebody, who is the main character? Well, I know because we've read it and you read it yesterday and you've done some great underlining and highlighting for me. I understand that it's the prince. We are talking about the prince. So I'm going to put the prince. So there it is, the prince. He's the main character. And then he wanted, what did he want in this story? Okay, well, that's pretty easy. I think I do remember that too. Yep, he wanted, there it is right there. He wanted, there it is, he wanted to marry a real princess. Yeah, so I'll just put that. He wanted to marry a real princess. So he had to find a true one. He couldn't find one that find just a girl who was not a princess. And I bet there were a lot of girls who wanted to pretend like they were a real princess. So I know it's the prince. I know he wanted to marry a real princess, but there was a problem. And if I do remember that we talked about, or that you talked about, and I've read this, that he was kind of picky or particular about what he wanted in a princess, right? So he was a little bit particular. So I'm going to put that, I think that was probably part of his problem. So, but he was, we'll say very particular. And then particular means picky or picky, right? About this. So he was very particular. So who decides to help him? I know we have a so here. How did this character respond to this challenge? What happened? Who decided to help him? Let's see, I believe it was his mother, right? His mother decided to do something, to come up with a plan. I believe is what it was. She had come to the door, right? Yes. And she was soaking wet. And she said, I am a princess. You know, let me in. I need help. I am a princess. And the queen overheard all of this, right? And she was suspicious. She was. So do I need to put all of that into my summary? Or should I just keep going, do you think? Yeah, I think I should keep going. I don't think I have to have a lot of details when I'm just giving a summary or a gist. I don't need a lot of details. So I think I'm going to skip over that part where she came to the door and she was soaking wet. I think what I need to go on to is, how did the character respond to the challenge? Well, his mother, what did his mother do? His mother tested. She kind of came up with a test for this girl to see if she was a real princess or not. So I think I'll put his mother tested a girl who claimed to be a princess. So she was claiming to be a princess and she was like, I don't know about that. But what? Didn't look, what? She did not look like a princess at all. But didn't look like one. Let me write that down. And what did she do? How did she test her? So this is where we're talking about the testing of it. I think I should probably go on and explain how that test was, because that's important. Well, that's like an important part of the summary that somebody would want to know. So the prince wanted to marry a real princess. He was very particular or picky about this. His mother tested a girl who claimed to be a princess, but didn't look like one. And how did she do this? By putting a what? A pea or a few peas or something, right? In a what? Or in, we'll say in her bed. In her bed. Ooh, yeah. So she put that in her bed, and what was going to happen? If what? If she could tell there was a pea in that bed, then she would definitely be a princess, right? So let's see. What happened then? How did the story end or the problem get solved? Okay, his mother tested a girl who claimed to be a princess but didn't look like one by putting a pea in her bed. Then what? What did the queen realize? The queen realized that what? Ooh, yes, the queen realized that the girl was a true princess. She was a true princess because she could not sleep because of that discomfort that she had in her bed, right? So she realized, and let me put the queen. The queen realized the girl was a true princess. Because why? Because she could not sleep, right? She could not sleep because of that pea. She could not sleep because of the pea. We'll just put that. And so what happened? They got married, right? So they were allowed to marry. And I'm going to just put allowed to marry. And I'm not going to I don't have to write it in complete sentences, because this is just my summary, and so that I can retell and know what happened in the story. These were the important parts that happened in the story. And you noticed we took 2 pages of text here and we combined it down a pretty good bit, right? So I just want the main ideas. We don't need all the little details. Details are things like she was soaking wet and on a dark, stormy night. Okay, those are all just little details that help carry the story on. Those are not main events. So when you're looking at summarizing, make sure you include all of these parts, okay, and make sure that you only have the main events and not too many details. Now that we've summarized, let's look a little bit more in depth at the theme. The theme, the message, the moral of the story. So there was a lesson here in this story that the author is teaching us. And I think that there's for sure one that really jumps out to me. And what we have to be able to do is when we are talking about theme, we need to be able to show and prove our evidence of why we think that's the theme. The one that really jumps out to me, and I bet it jumps out to you too, is that appearances can be deceiving. And sometimes we say you can't judge a book by its cover. Sometimes we use that phrase too. But appearances can be deceiving. I think that's probably one of the messages. And they didn't come out and just say it. It was implied, and I'm inferring that. So the reason that I think that it's that is because when the princess shows up at the city gate in the middle of a thunderstorm, and I look at it, she looks anything but royal. She doesn't look royal, right? And the narrator describes how the water was like, she was just soaked from head to toe. And she didn't even have what? She was soaked head to toe. She said, what princess would wear those shoes with that dress, right? Oh, I'm sorry. That was the first one. We have, where was it? Right. Let me find where it was. Yep, right here. She was soaked. I think y'all even talked about that yesterday. She was soaked from head to toe and she was shivering, right? And she was wanting to take shelter in their home. Yep. So she was not the picture of a princess at all. She was not being very elegant, which is what we usually associate with somebody who's being royal. So naturally, the queen, she is suspicious and she wants some form of proof that this stranger that has just showed up to her door, soaking wet, not looking like a princess, that we need some proof of who she claims to be. So after passing the test, of course, of being able to fill a pea under a big, tremendous amount of bedding, right, all those mattresses, it was confirmed, yep, that the girl was telling the truth, and she was an actual princess. And so I think the queen learns a valuable lesson just from that. She should not have judged her just because she did not look the part. And here's a picture right here to even help as well. So this is my text evidence that I'm using to say that's probably something that the queen would learn. We also have talked about that themes, we could have more than one theme in a passage. And another one that I thought about that maybe, and maybe you did too, and maybe you guys discussed it yesterday as well, is that little things make a big difference. Just a little thing can make a really big difference. And you can only imagine how comfortable that princess's bed must have been with all that bedding piled on. She had all those mattresses piled up. But one little pea underneath all that padding was enough to destroy her comfort. It just ruined her whole night. She couldn't sleep at all. So, and I think that says that. Let me find my text evidence to prove what I am saying. I'll have to get there so I can find it. It says, yeah, I was sleeping right here. Look, you guys highlighted it too. I was sleeping on a boulder, and now my back and shoulders are black and blue. Yeah, that one little pea made that huge difference to her whole night's sleep. She just compared it to a boulder. I like that use of language there too, how she compared it to a boulder. So this is kind of the belief that for all these little negative things sometimes just stick with us. Even the smallest little thing can wreak havoc sometimes for us. So in this case, our princess, she just says, you know what? I don't know what was in that bed, but I was lying on something hard. And look, I'm black and blue all over, and now my body's sore and I'm tired, right? So that's where it says that's my text evidence for little things can make a big difference. Just doing the smallest thing can help and make a difference. And there's one more that I thought of that I bet these fourth graders are going to think this too. I don't know. The last thing that I was thinking of was to be honest. Yeah, just being honest. What was your first thought when you were reading this story and the princess responded to that question about, well, how did you sleep? And what do we always say? Oh, I slept fine. Thank you. Thank you. That's what we always say, right? But what did she say? She said it was what? I don't mean to be rude, but it was the most awful night I've ever had. That's what she said. She was being honest. She was being honest here. And I think that's another message that we can learn. Another thing we can learn is to be honest. And when she first said it, I was like, oh my, that's terrible manners. But then I got to thinking, you know, most of us with manners, we've been taught that that's rude, a rude thing to say. You don't want to hurt anybody's feelings when they have offered you something. So when someone offers you something, you appreciate it. But this princess, her future, you know, her future depends on this too. And her honesty probably really helped her and saved her in this whole moment. So I kind of feel like this fairy tale here is suggesting that instead of saying fine when someone asks you how you are, that there are times when sometimes it's more appropriate to be honest about your struggles, right? And being honest in the situation made sure that that prince believed that she was a true princess. And that's kind of another thing that made the big difference too, another little thing. So those were the kind of the three that I thought about that were just implied. They didn't say it, but I did back them up with text evidence. And that's what you're going to have to be able to do when you come up with themes. We also are going to have, every time you read passages, you're going to have questions to answer. So we're going to go over some of those now. And the first one that we're going to talk about is going to be, which event would you need to be included in a summary? Okay, that's the first one we're going to do. We already did our somebody wanted but so then, so we're going to let that one go right now. And we're going to look at number 2. Let's look at number 2. See if I can get that for us. There we go. And I'm going to give you just a moment to think about it. I'm going to give you a little moment to think about number 2 question. And these are the kinds of questions you'll have to be doing on your own. All right, let's look. Which event would need to be included in a summary? Now we just did our somebody wanted but so then summary. So hopefully you can tell which ones are the details and which one is a main event that needs to be included. Would it be the prince and the queen didn't believe the princess was a true princess? The prince felt like something was always wrong with the girls he met? The queen placed a pea under all of the mattresses to be able to tell whether the girl was a true princess? Or the princess showed up at the castle in the rain? The first one that I think that we should probably eliminate would be that she showed up in the rain. I don't think we have to really know that. That doesn't really go with what, with the main events of the story. That's not gonna, which one of these is really going to tell us that's a part of the story that if you were gonna retell the story to someone that you would wanna make sure you included? Okay, the prince and the queen didn't believe the princess was a true princess. Well, I mean, I feel like that's kind of obvious. They knew that, so I don't think we would have to include that. The prince felt like something was always wrong with the girls he met. Again, I feel like we already would understand that part too. So I think this is probably going to be our best answer. The queen placed a pea under all of the mattresses to be able to tell whether the girl was a true princess. So C is going to be the best answer that should be included in a summary. And if I'm thinking correctly, that's one of the ones that we included just a minute ago on our chart. All right, let's look at this is number 3 on here. It says, which of the following is a complete sentence? Oh, this is a good one too. A complete sentence. We have a little language question here. The queen overheard what the girl had said and was very suspicious. Okay. One dark, stormy night. That sounds like it's missing something. One dark, stormy night. What happened on one dark, stormy night? That is not a complete sentence. Let's look at C. In the eyes of the queen. In the eyes of the queen. What about in the eyes of the queen? I don't know. That is not a complete sentence. Sopping wet hair. Who's sopping wet hair? What's going on with the sopping wet hair? What about the sopping wet hair? Yeah, that is not a complete sentence. I think it has to be the queen overheard what the girl had said and was very suspicious. Because who are we talking about? We're talking about the queen. What the queen do? What's the verb there? The queen overheard and was suspicious. Yeah, I think that makes sense. So I think it's going to be A. Number 4 question. Which of the following uses commas appropriately? Ooh, got to be talking this week is what we've been talking about as well. Which one uses commas correctly? I'm going to give you a moment to think and then see what you've learned so far this week. All right, let's see if you matched what I'm thinking. So we know about commas. We know that commas are used after introductory type words. And so let's read the first one. We have quotation marks. Finally, comma, the queen was satisfied the bedding was fit for a true princess. Period, quotation marks. Yes, the period is inside there. It's very faint and it's inside our quotation marks because it goes with what it's saying. And we have a comma after our introductory word. That looks pretty good. I'm gonna put a little check mark next to it because I think that might be the answer, but I should always double check to be sure. Quotation marks. Finally, no comma, the queen was satisfied the bedding was fit for a true princess. They've got the period and they've got the quotation marks, but they don't have the comma after our introductory word finally. So I don't think that's gonna be it. C, quotation marks. Finally, the queen was satisfied the, comma, bedding was fit for a true princess, period, quotation marks. They have the period quotation marks correct. Look at this comma. Why do they have a comma in the middle of the and bedding? No, it has to come after the introductory word. Let's look at the next one. Finally, the queen, comma, finally the queen, comma, was satisfied. The bedding was fit for a true princess, period. Quotation marks, does look great. That looks great. Finally, the queen. No, finally, the queen is not our introductory word. So that cannot be correct. It has to be A. That is the correct use of the comma with an introductory word in a sentence. Let's look at number 5. Now we're looking for capital letters. Capital letters. All right, I'm going to give you just a moment to look at that. Make sure I got it there for you. All right, number 5. Which of the following uses capital letters appropriately? Let's see. A, I don't mean to be rude, comma, but it was the most awful night's sleep I ever had, period, quotation marks. I think it looks really good. Oh, look at that capital letter at the beginning. Is that a capital letter? That is not a capital letter. They did not put a capital letter I at the beginning of that sentence. And we know when we use the letter I, we have to always capitalize it like that when it's by itself. Let's look at B. Quotation marks, we go. Capital I, good. I don't mean to be rude, comma, but it was the most awful night's sleep I ever had, period, quotation marks. Ooh, that looks pretty good. We have a capital I. I think the capital I there. Ooh, that might be our answer. We'll put a little check there. Let's look at C. Oh, look at that I. They did not capitalize it. Can't be our answer. I'm not even going to read the rest of it. D. I don't mean to be rude, comma, but it was the most awful night's sleep I ever had. Period, quotation marks. Let's look at this one. It looks like this one has a capital I. It looks like this one has a capital I. Do we see any other capitalization errors? No. So I think we have 2 sentences that look pretty good. So I think I'm going to mark this one too. I think we're going to have 2 answers on there, even though I didn't say it. I don't mean to be rude. Yep, I think we're going to go with 2 answers on that one. All right, let's look at number 6. The queen didn't believe the girl when she first met her because she didn't appear to be a princess. She didn't appear to be a princess. What message, there's our theme, does this send the reader? What message does this send? Does it tell us, hey, where there's a will, there's a way? You can't give up when met with a challenge. Things aren't always what they appear, or always follow your heart. You know, these are some great themes, but I don't think we can justify those with our text. But the one that goes with this word is this one. Things aren't always what they appear to be. Yep. I think we're going to have to go with C. All right, let's look at number 7. This is a part A, part B, so we're going to prove this one as well. We got to prove it on part B. What lesson did the queen and prince learn? What lesson did they learn? Let's see if you can get that before me. Let me give you a moment to think. All right, let's see if you got it. What lesson did the queen and prince learn? If something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Good lesson, but I don't think that's the one that they learned. Treat others the way you want to be treated. That's interesting. That's pretty good. Might put a dot next to that. That sounds kind of good. Because I'm sure they would want others to not treat them that way if they were in the other princess's place. Let's look at C. If you're determined, you will find a way. If you're determined, you will find a way. I don't think that's the lesson that the queen and the prince learned. No, I don't think that's part of this one. What about D? Don't judge a book by its cover. Oh, that sounds familiar. Yep, I think that's probably going to be our answer because they did judge her based on what she looked like. I think that's going to be our best answer. Do you see how this one's a pretty good answer, but no, this one beat it out for sure. Don't judge a book by its cover. Now let's go to our next and final question. And here it is. Let's see if we can get it. It's our part B. What piece of evidence from the text best supports your answer to part A? Okay, I'm going to give you a moment to see which one you think goes with don't judge a book by its cover. All right, which one do you think goes with don't judge a book by its cover? So we were talking about her appearance. So which one is talking about her appearance? Is it the girl was quite a wretched sight in the eyes of the queen? Is that talking about her appearance and what she looked like? Yes, it does. I'm going to put a little check mark there. That might be my answer. Let's look at B. Shocked at the girl's response, the queen realized this girl was a real princess. Is that talking about what she looked like? Is that judging a book by its cover? Talking about her appearance at all? No, it's not talking about her appearance. I don't think that's going to be it. He would always express his doubts when questioned by his mother, the queen, and he always had some silly reason for these doubts. Are we talking about her appearance in any way? Or are we just talking about the prince's doubts? I think we're just talking about his doubts, and I don't think we're talking about her appearance at all. So we're going to say no. And D. So he returned home full of sorrow because he feared he would never meet a real princess. Is that talking about what the princess looked like? About judging a book by its cover? No, that doesn't mention it. So I think our best answer to go with part A, don't judge a book by its cover, is the girl was quite a wretched sight in the eyes of the queen. She was a wretched sight. She surely couldn't be a princess. Surely not. So that's how we can prove that you don't judge a book by its cover. So this concludes our summarizing and theme lesson for the day. And I hope that you feel a little bit better about analyzing the theme and using your text evidence to support it, and even doing your somebody wanted but so then. So I think that you should be really proud of yourself for listening today and participating. And to keep in mind that for the rest of the week, we're going to continue talking about the characters, the setting, and the plot within a text. And we're going to keep practicing that summarizing and determining a theme of a text. And I feel like that you guys did a great job today. And I want you to read after this is over, read over this, we will know we are successful when we are able to. And I want you to think about if you think that you can do it now as well. So after you have done that, I want you to go to Kidim, and you will find there your independent practice for today. And it will be marked Wednesday, independent practice. Great job, guys.